Most of the fights in this movie are less than 10 seconds. Even the most important ones are about 1 minute long. Everything in between is filler, with dialogue ranging from okay to really awful. The final act comes out of nowhere and feels like it was written in 10 minutes. Pretty much every character that wasn't in the first movie is completely dismissed in this one. They're either a jobber, a joke, or they're mutilated for fun. My personal favorite character from the series is reduced to being angry, and that's it. That's his entire character. I'm mad. If you're a big fan of Mortal Kombat lore, then just forget everything you know, because this film does not care. I don't normally make reviews, but after watching this movie, I had to immediately sit down and record my thoughts. I don't normally do unscripted reviews like this, but I thought that maybe you all would enjoy it. And I also really wanted to get my thoughts out there. I was looking forward to this movie more than anything else Mortal Kombat related this year. And I'm sad to say it did not meet my expectations at all. I'm honestly a little bit insulted, and I want to explain why, because anyone who watches my channel, you know that I don't ever roast Mortal Kombat stuff, especially not for the sake of roasting it. I actually tend to be very lenient when I review the Mortal Kombat films, especially. I've done podcasts with other big YouTubers who review Mortal Kombat content, and I'm the nicest one there. Like, I really do genuinely enjoy the things that they often hate. In fact, I thought Scorpion's Revenge was absolutely amazing. There were some flaws, sure, but overall I could watch it a lot of times, and I want to share it with some friends and watch it together. And that's honestly why I think it's important that I make this review, because I'm not somebody coming from a place of hate at all. In fact, as a person, I go out of my way to almost never use that word. It's a very strong word, but I think I did hate this movie, or at least I'm very close to hating this movie. And I'm gonna work really hard to avoid spoilers for the start of this video, and then later on when I really dive deep into my thoughts on this film, I'm gonna have to get into spoiler territory, but there will be a warning. In fact, I think I should warn a lot of you watching. For example, if you were excited for this movie because of the tournament aspect like I very much was, then you should dismiss those feelings right away, because most of the fights you've already seen in the trailer. And I know you're thinking that can't be true because a lot of the fights only showed 5 seconds at most. I am not exaggerating when I tell you most of the fights in this movie are less than 10 seconds long, especially when it comes to the tournament fights. There is literally a montage sequence that looks like a trailer, and that's one of the most offensive parts. I think those fights were only included for the trailer, and that's it. That honestly could be why they're so short, because they made them just long enough to hook you with a trailer. Now, I could be wrong, maybe it was rushed, and that's why I can't say I hate this movie entirely, but I am very disappointed. To a very extreme extent, I'm disappointed. I was looking forward to an anime style tournament arc, and not because I'm a big fan of anime. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, but I'm not some super fan when it comes to anime. I just know that tournament arcs can work really well, and this film was marketed as a tournament movie. However, once again, most of the fights are less than 10 seconds long. Even the big ones are really short, sometimes less than 30 seconds. And for a lot of films, I would understand why you do that if the story was really important and you couldn't waste time on the fights, but this is Mortal Kombat. Most of the story should be fighting. And if you've watched any amazing fight scenes, then you know that fights can also tell a story in themselves. They can choreograph the characters' personalities, they can show growth, character development, all that stuff. But that's not what you're getting in this movie. A lot of the fights really do seem like they were made just for the trailer. Now, I was purposely very vague when I posted my review about this movie on Twitter, because I really don't want to get blocked by any writers or producers. I know it shouldn't matter because I don't know them, but it does actually hurt my feelings a bit, and I'm not sure why. So I kept my review there very vague, but I'll be honest with you, if you're watching this film because you're a Mortal Kombat fan, then just prepare yourself. That's all I can say, because I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan too, and I'm not even that big of a lore guy. I'm okay if they bend or stretch some things, but my gosh, this film just doesn't care about the lore at all. The entire final act of this movie is crazy bizarre. It's like they watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation and then wanted to do it better. Maybe that's a bit of a spoiler, but I hope not. That's just honestly how it felt, and it was really bizarre they even tried that. This movie really does try to do way too much with the time it's given, especially, and that's why I think most of the film is not the tournament. They wanted to make sure they had time for everything. And this next part is going to be tricky to talk about without spoilers, but I'm still going to make it happen. If you were happy to see certain characters in the trailer that were not in the first movie, then also prepare yourself, because most of them are not given any sort of good treatment at all. This movie does have fatalities, which is fine, but for whatever reason, the villains are mostly spared and nothing bad ever happens to them. But then some of the heroes are killed in the most gruesome way possible, and not just the fatalities, there's stuff added on. It's really bizarre how they fetishize the death of the heroes, but the villains just get off scot-free, or even if they are murdered, it's not nearly as brutal as what happens to the heroes. It's really odd. There are two characters in particular that I'm not sure why they were killed in such a gruesome way. It kind of blows my mind. It's like the writers didn't like them or something. This movie also does have a tiny bit of politics in it, not too bad. They tried to be light on it, but they definitely were told by somebody that they had to include it. There's a very half-hearted attempt at consent and why it's important, but it's done for like 30 seconds. The female characters are way stronger than they've ever been in the games, especially in certain scenes in particular. And of course they comment on the skimpy outfits too, but that's done as a joke. The weird thing is Johnny Cage makes a joke. I don't know why this film tries to make him both a womanizer and someone who's not okay with skimpy clothing. Like, they can't make up their mind for whatever reason. Once again, the politics is super light, but I never thought in a Mortal Kombat movie there would be like 2 different scenes where they mention consent and how important it is. And don't misunderstand, it's super duper important. Consent is very important, but I don't get why it's in a Mortal Kombat movie. That's so bizarre to me. And the way it's spoken about acts as if the audience is 8 years old, because it's explained in the most kindergarten way possible. So it's not even dealt with in a serious manner. It's very half-hearted and it's very bizarre. I don't get why it's in there. I don't want to be entirely negative about this film, so I will say some good things, but I'm not lying to you when I say that I was sitting down watching this film, and multiple times while watching it, I just yelled, I hate this. I hate this right now. I hate what's happening on screen. I'm so mad. Like, why did they do this? That happened several times, and I've never done that in a movie since I was like 10. Once again, I'm the one who's easy to please when it comes to watching a movie. I didn't even hate the live action movie. I thought it was okay, it's what I expected. Maybe my hopes were too high for this movie because the last one was so decent, and this one looked so much better in a lot of regards, but man, multiple times I yelled, I hate this movie, I hate it. I still paid for it because I pay for things that I watch. I want to support the franchise, but man, several times I said out loud that I hate this movie. And again, they may have been rushed. That's why I don't want to say I hate every aspect of it, because maybe they were forced. It came out pretty quick, honestly, so maybe they were rushed. I don't know. But I think I've gone as far as I can without spoilers at this point, so now we're in the spoiler territory where I'm going to say what I exactly don't like about this movie. So for starters, we have Johnny Cage. Despite him being shown as stronger than Sonya in the last movie, he just gets wrecked in this film, like immediately. And even at the beginning, he like begs and be like, oh my god, someone help me. I need help right now, back up, just because Jade knocks him down. I don't get why he's put under so much in this movie. Like, they dust him so much as far as the writing goes. He never gets to do anything cool until later. And what's weird is later on, Sonya again has trouble with like 1 Tarkatan, and he's fighting off 5 off screen and does just fine. So again, he's stronger than Sonya, but yet he loses to someone really convincingly that Sonya actually beats. It's really weird. And I sadly already figured that was going to be the case, because in the trailer you see him doing the shadow kick and you see like the D'Vorah ground burst coming up, and I'm like, oh geez, D'Vorah's going to beat one more legacy character. She's going to collect victories from all these legacy characters. Johnny Cage is literally the first person to lose at the tournament, and for whatever reason, like, the fatalities sometimes don't happen, even if the opponent would definitely do a fatality, and it's only because the writers can't have that character die. But that's the weird part. I don't think that Johnny Cage would lose to D'Vorah in a straight fight. I really don't. At least not to this Johnny Cage, who's taking on giant monsters all by himself before he even had the green energy. That was the entire joke of the first film, is that everyone kept thinking he was an idiot, and they wouldn't even let him fight in some scenes, and then when he does fight, it turns out he's actually a really, really good fighter. But for some reason, this movie forgets about that entirely and just has him be a jobber. It's like he's mocap, he just gets dusted. Stryker collects more wins in this movie than Johnny Cage, but don't get excited if you're a Stryker fan, because he's done pretty dirty as well. At the very least, he does have some speaking lines, so that's kind of nice, but you see most of them in the trailer. Even so, he is one of the more human characters in the movie. He acts the most relatable, but like I mentioned earlier, some of the heroes are killed off in the most gruesome ways possible, and Stryker is one of those characters. He gets double fatality. That's like the only way I can describe it. He gets double fatality. And once again, the trailer already gave away that he was fighting Shang Tsung, so I knew he was going to lose. There's no way Stryker's gonna beat Shang Tsung, and I thought maybe he would die, but my god, why treat him like that? I worry it might be a political thing because everyone hates cops right now, so they killed the cop in the most brutal way possible, but Stryker's a good cop. You don't treat good cops that way. It's really weird. I know it's Mortal Kombat, so I'm not mad there's fatalities in it, but again, this never happens to the villains. They're not killed in that violent of a manner. Even D'Vorah is spared. Like, she's completely spared. She gets impaled, but she lives. I guess because the heroes are good is why the villains get to live, right? But can we have someone kill them? Like, can Scorpion kill them somehow? Nope, guess what? Scorpion's not in the tournament, and neither is Kuali Yang. Oh man, I almost forgot, like, Kuali Yang is done so dirty in this movie. He's legit just rage boner the entire film. He just wants to kill Scorpion and that's it. That's his entire character arc. At first he wants to help Smoke, but then he forgets about that and just wants to kill Scorpion. Even in situations where he knows he would die, it's really dumb. It's really dumb because the first time he fights Sector and Cyrax, he has no chance, right? Like, no chance at all. So he flees. But then later on, when it's him versus Scorpion and then 3 cyborgs, not just 2, he somehow decides to fight there, which he wouldn't. No rational human being would do that. If anything, he would see if Scorpion ends up like winning, and if he does, he would finish Scorpion off, right? If he wants revenge that badly. But they make his anger his entire character. It's really weird. That's never been Kuali Yang's character. They make him all about revenge, and that's it. It's really bizarre. Now, the only good thing about that is that Scorpion comes off more mature than he ever has in the games or any of the films. Like, Scorpion has a full arc in this movie, and that's about it. But like, seriously, like, Kuali Yang decides to work with him and then attacks him from behind like multiple times because that's how much he cares. He has that much of a rage boner that he's gonna be the most dishonorable person ever to kill Scorpion. It's so bizarre. And that's why earlier I said if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan and that's why you want to watch this movie, just prepare yourself, because it does not really seem like it's written for fans, like, at all. Kuali Yang is done really dirty. He's just another version of Scorpion in this film. Scorpion gets to be the mature one, whereas in most of the games it's the opposite. It's always been Kuali Yang who's the mature one and helps like calm down Scorpion. That does not happen here. I guess I should go back to the tournament, even though there's so many plot holes that happen with the Scorpion and Sub-Zero dynamic and just their story arc in general, their entire section. Like, there's an entire section of just them, which is not a terrible B plot, honestly, and all films have an A and a B plot. In fact, most episodes have A's and B plots, but their B plot like has so many weird plot holes in it. Like, Scorpion can teleport, but for some reason he never teleports to grab the important thing. Also, debris is just constantly chasing Kuali Yang, which is so funny. Like, Sub-Zero is constantly being hunted by falling debris, and several times it lands on him. That's like the only time he gets hit is by falling debris, and it's everywhere. I was like cracking up because even in the final act of the film, he almost gets hit twice by falling debris. It's so weird. It aims for him exclusively. Sub-Zero is constantly being attacked by falling debris. But yeah, there's so many plot holes with them too, and they show up later in the final act, and it's so silly. It's so silly. They show up and like the way they help makes no sense because they're just 2 people. Like, they're 2 regular mortal dudes who could barely even fight cyborgs, but later on they're going toe to toe with god characters. It's so weird, dude. It's so weird. Okay, but back to the tournament. So certain characters I hinted at earlier are way stronger than they should be. Katana is really strong in this movie. She fights Raiden. And like, Raiden's human in this movie. He becomes human to fight in the tournament. And he barely beats Reiko, who, by the way, Reiko's not a general anymore. Now it's Katana. Again, that's like some politics stuff. We have General Katana, which I don't hate, but General Reiko is literally in his name, and his entire thing is being the general. And I thought that maybe they would have him be the general after like Katana like gets captured, or she betrays Shao Kahn and he captures her or something. Then they would make Reiko the general before the tournament fight happens. But no, he's never General Reiko. He's just there, just like Li Mei is just there. I don't think Li Mei is even mentioned by name. That's like how little they care about Li Mei. And they give the same treatment to Reiko for the most part. He's just there to be a decent challenge for Raiden, which I guess is cool if you're a Reiko fan because he fights Raiden and puts up a really good fight. But then Raiden fights Katana and she wins. Like, she wins quickly, which is ridiculous because it's shown she can't even like damage Shao Kahn. I'll get into that later, but she can't even damage Shao Kahn. But then Raiden damages Shao Kahn. But somehow she just dusts Raiden. Again, like, the women characters are just put over in this film. There's maybe some politics there, or just some preference, I don't know. But Katana is super strong. And then what's weird, I don't think that Shao Kahn is her father in this movie, or that she even thinks that it's her dad. He's like just her oppressor, because she turns on him immediately and just tries to kill him. Like, she goes for the kill shot immediately. And she never once says like, oh, I can't betray him, he's my dad. She just says, I can't, like, I'm scared of him, pretty much, is like what she says. Then she goes to kill him. And the one really funny thing about this is Shao Kahn pretends to die. That's like the one thing I was like, dude, that's actually pretty funny that Shao Kahn like actually hams it up and goes, oh, and pretends to die from her blade. That way he's like all dramatic and dead. And she's like, I did it. I'm the queen of Outworld. Just for him to get up and go, ha 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 ha. I like that he pretends to die. That's really funny to me. Shao Kahn pranking someone. I never thought I'd see that, and it's done in a really good way. But guess what? Shao Kahn immediately beats Katana. And in this film, Shao Kahn dusts everybody. Like, nobody can even touch him. He is anime levels of powerful. He's ridiculously strong. And then in the fight between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung, that's a weird fight. It's weird. I feel like maybe the person who wrote the fights in this scene watched like 2 episodes of anime, because there are so many parts in these fights where a character is just losing, then they decide, I am not going to lose now, and then they just win. Like, it's not even a struggle. It's like they lose, then they win. Like, they're losing, then they win. There's no even back and forth at all. It's bizarre. It happens like 3 times in this movie, and it happens in the Shang Tsung versus Liu Kang fight. Shang Tsung never does a soul steal ever again, even though it's his go-to move, and against like Liu Kang, that'd be really effective, but he doesn't do it. He like wins like convincingly early on. Like Shang Tsung's just bodying Liu Kang, and I was shocked. I thought it would be an even back and forth, and then he takes out one of Liu Kang's arms, which we saw in the trailer. He had one arm taken out, and we knew it was Shang Tsung because it looked like some weird spellcaster stuff. Anyway, Liu Kang's arm is gone, right? He's one arm down. You expect it to be a really big struggle here, but he wins because he's the hero and maybe he's determined. No, Shang Tsung gets bodied now. Liu Kang blocks everything one-handed without even moving barely, and like he dodges everything effortlessly, barely moving at all, like Vegito, despite being one arm down, just because he decides he wants to win now. And then he bodies Shang Tsung, and he doesn't fatality him, which I kind of like because if you watch Fort Snake's video, Liu Kang is not the violent character who does fatalities traditionally until the NetherRealm games. Before that, a lot of his fatalities were always jokes or they weren't lethal. For example, him becoming a giant dragon was just cool effect, but it wasn't him actually doing it. Him dropping the arcade cabinet just as a joke, right? Outside of that, his fatalities and finishers, a lot of them were not lethal. And that makes sense because he's a monk, so I actually do like that he's not a killer in this movie either. But the weird part is, he tells Shang Tsung to live with his defeat and to understand the fight wasn't even close. And I'm like, dude, at one point, Shang Tsung stomped your head into the ground, held you up, and told you were pathetic, and then let you go so you could get back up. That's how much he was winning. He probably could have killed you there. So that line doesn't even work. I don't understand why these fights couldn't just be an even back and forth with both characters really struggling, and then one of them barely wins. Raiden goes through that, and it's great. I like it. And then Stryker also goes through that, and I really like it. But then most of the characters just win. Or they're losing, then they win like tremendously out of nowhere. Just some crazy power-up that makes no sense. Oh my god, I forgot about Kung Lao. He's done so dirty. He's voiced by Liu Kang in the games, I think, because Liu Kang in this movie is voiced by someone else. So now Liu Kang from the games voices Kung Lao in this movie, which was really confusing. We see Kung Lao really early on in the movie, which I think is good because otherwise you wouldn't see him at all. He does almost nothing, and he almost never talks. But even at the start of the film, it's shown that he's not that great. He's okay. He's stronger than a Shaolin monk, but he's not that great. And then when he fights Shao Kahn, for one thing, he knows that he's a descendant of Kung Lao. Stop doing that. Stop doing that, writers. If I could grab the camera, stop. Stop having the chosen ones know they're chosen. That makes them lame. That makes them so lame immediately. Imagine if Spider-Man, when he was Peter Parker, before getting bit, was told as a kid, hey young man, one day you're gonna be a superhero and you're gonna be super cool. It's your destiny, and I know for a fact because I'm a god. Look at me do god stuff. I'm the spider god, and you're gonna be the spider chosen one. How lame would that make Peter Parker? Super lame. Stop doing that. Stop having them know they're the chosen one. In fact, get rid of that entirely. It's so dumb. The idea of Kung Lao being like the great Kung Lao was revealed to him later, after he had done the amazing deeds. That's why it was so cool and important. Stop doing it in advance. It makes them lame, and it makes them full of themselves, and we don't want to relate to characters who are full of themselves. That's what the villains do. Stop making the heroes villains. Oh my god. So yeah, they butcher Kung Lao pretty bad. He talks a lot of smack, and then he gets killed in the most violent way possible, involving his own hat. He's killed by it. Oh my god. And he's given the Shao Kahn famous fatality. And that's whatever, you know, I was like, oh, they're gonna bring that back. I knew it was coming. But then, for whatever reason, there's like a 5-second long shot of Kung Lao already in half, but he's still alive, and his eyes looking around desperately, like he's so scared, and he's like, oh god, oh, it's so bad, it hurts, oh, and his eyes is looking around. And I'm like, why? Why is that shot there? Why do you hate Kung Lao? I don't, like, killing him is one thing, but why is that extra shot there? It's so weird. Again, it's so weird. It's like the writers don't like the good guys. It's bizarre, like they hate Kung Lao for some reason. Or maybe it's to make us hate Shao Kahn, but we already hate Shao Kahn just for killing a character. That's all we actually needed. What's weird though is that death isn't even what drives Liu Kang mad. It's the death of Raiden, which you know is gonna happen. We know it's gonna happen because Shao Kahn beats everybody, and we already saw Shao Kahn fight Liu Kang in the trailer. And by the way, even that fight is done better in the trailer than in the actual movie. Because in the trailer, there's a big punch first, and then all the sound just goes away, and it's pure intensity. I loved that. That's not in the movie. They just punch and kick. There's no cool sound effect, no deafening punch that makes everything go silent. No, that's not there. That was all trailer magic. It's a pretty regular fight. It's pretty even for a little bit, and then Liu Kang starts getting dusted because that's how Shao Kahn beats everybody in this movie. He either beats them outright, or they resist a little bit, and then he dusts them. And it's the same thing with Liu Kang. But then Liu Kang enters God mode out of nowhere, and I mean actual God mode. I'm not like joking and saying he's just strong out of nowhere. No, he can literally fly now, and he can launch Shao Kahn 90 feet into the air and teleport behind him. He's literally the Avatar. He's just flying around shooting fire and stuff, and it's ridiculous. There's no foreshadowing to this. It's not even hinted at that Liu Kang can even do this. And that's why this film bothers me. I worry the writers were like, what do people like? Oh, these dumb viewers, they like Dragon Ball Z. Let's have Liu Kang just become Goku in the final fight. They'll clap like monkeys, they'll clap, they'll be idiots. And then Shao Kahn loses, just straight up. All we wanted to see, like anyone who's a writer who's watching this, even if you're not the writer of this movie, because you're probably not, but if you're an aspiring writer, don't do that. What the viewers actually want to see is the hero and the villain both struggling, like neck and neck the whole time by the skin of their teeth, and then at the end, they're both desperate and just slugging it out. That's what people want to see. They don't want to see good guy lose, then magic power up, good guy win. They don't want to see that. Back and forth, not just back, then 1/4. They don't want to see that, but that's what happens again. And Liu Kang just wins, and he's not even tired. He's not even shocked that he won. He looks completely unfazed. He looks bored. And everyone else just looks bored too. No one's all excited. They're like, oh, whatever. And then for some reason, the Outworld crowd is cheering. Why would the Outworld crowd cheer? They like Shao Kahn. That's their guy. They lost. But don't worry, because the worst is yet to come. Now we have the final act, because this movie has the one being. But he's reduced to being corrupted Shinnok, only he's really tall. That's what he basically is. Shinnok's in this movie, but he does nothing except talk to demons, and then talk to the Lin Kuei Grandmaster, and then he becomes the one being, that's it. But then the one being shows up, and it's revealed that the gods were never even worried about Liu Kang winning. That was like an assured thing, apparently. The whole point of Liu Kang is that he's so pure that he can harness all of the Elder Gods' strength. Okay, why can't the Elder Gods just merge together or something, if that's the case? Anyway, Liu Kang becomes an actual god now, like the god of all gods. He's the godliest god to ever god. Liu Kang's a god in every film now. Kung Lao dies in every movie now. That's how it is. There's also a bunch of anime flashbacks in this movie, and they're done so cheaply. Like, they're just thrown in there right before the thing happens, and you're like, oh my god. The reason they do that in anime is because there might be a 10-episode gap from when that line was said, but we were just watching that scene. You don't have to have the flashback. We remember it. Anyway, Liu Kang becomes this amazing god, and I would have honestly been okay with him being in that form and then fighting the one being. But no, it goes full annihilation, and he becomes a dragon beast. And again, it feels like the writers don't respect you, and they thought, these idiots got really excited over Godzilla versus Kong. They love dumb big monster battle. They're all dumb idiots. Let's give them a big monster fight. That's it. Let's just give them that. They'll love it. They'll clap like seals. They'll love it. And it's so weird. It's such a weird scene. And Liu Kang's not even getting any good hits in, like he's just getting destroyed. And I thought for a second they were actually going to kill Liu Kang in the dragon form, but no, suddenly Sub-Zero shows up and his ice attack actually stuns the one being. That's weird, because earlier his ice attacks weren't even strong enough to break the armor of a Cyber Lin Kuei, but then in other scenes his ice can hold them in place. It's really weird. His ice is literally as strong as the plot needs it to be for the entire film. It's either nothing or it's great, depending on what the plot requires. But then he's flying around like Iceman. Like, he's literally Iceman. He's freezing the ground as he goes everywhere. He just has superpowers like that now. Forget just throwing ice balls. He can now make ice bridges at will and just fly around. And then Scorpion shows up and I'm like, what are you guys supposed to do? You're regular people. The one being is literally so strong that all the Elder Gods had to team up to fight him, and they're not winning. They're losing. Why would you be able to do anything? Oh, because the plot needs you to do something. And then I seriously thought for a second Scorpion was gonna get the killing blow, and I was about to like fall backward in my seat and just die of shock that anyone would dare do that. Like, have Scorpion pull that off and kill the one being. But no, it turns out it does maybe nothing, or maybe it weakens them. We're not really sure. And then Liu Kang ends up winning in his dragon form. And then the one being shrinks for some reason because he's getting weaker, so he shrinks. I really thought that Liu Kang was going to fatality him as the dragon and bite him in half as a game reference. That's why he got small, I thought, for that fatality. Otherwise, he's too big. But no, that doesn't happen. Liu Kang turns into a regular Liu Kang instead. He's still big, but he's Liu Kang form, and then he just crushes the one being in his hand and gets all the energy into himself. Because apparently that's a thing you can do. What were the Kami Dogus for then, if you can absorb him? Why would a pure soul be able to absorb like the one being? That's just weird. Did the writers forget the one being is a god metaphor? Like, he's meant to be the creator and destroyer of everything. That's like his whole point. He's not supposed to be like beatable in that way. But whatever, he gets beaten and then it's all over. I think this was meant to be two separate films maybe at one point, and they forced it to be one film. I don't know, man, but it could have literally just been Mortal Kombat 2. They could have made it Mortal Kombat 2, but then because it's a film, have a lot of really good dialogue. Unfortunately, most of the dialogue is pretty bad. There's a really horrible line where Johnny Cage says all the murder and death is worth it because he got to meet Sonya. And she's actually turned on by that. She's like, wow, you mean it? Dude, he just said that everyone dying is okay because you're there. That would disgust me as a human being if someone said, yeah, I don't care that everyone died because I'm next to you. You don't get to say that about other people's lives. About your life, yes, you can say all the pain I suffered is okay because you're here and that's better to me. You don't get to say that everyone dying is okay because Sonya Blade is around. That's not okay. Writers, what the heck were you thinking? That's ridiculous. What were you thinking, writer? Oh my god, such a bad line. Oh my god. Again, I wanted to like this movie. Oh, the animation, by the way, it like dips so bad in some parts. I kind of regret defending it because I thought it was a style choice. There are some parts where there's no animation at all, or it's so cheap that it like blows your mind. And it's because they reserved the animation for certain sequences that would be in the trailer. And then that's it. All the trailer parts have good animation. The rest is like average or awful, depending. It varies. Oh my god, but this is definitely the final movie. There's no way they can outdo the one being. They literally blew their entire load in this movie. Like, it's all done. They can't go anywhere from that. Even if Onaga was to show up, it doesn't matter. They fought the one being. That's like Satan and God doing a fusion dance, and they beat him. So there's nothing. That's it. The movie's done. The series is done, and it's a shame. There are some good things. Let me think of them. So Shao Kahn is really strong, like he should be. Literally nobody has a chance of beating him until Liu Kang unlocks the secret god mode that wasn't even foreshadowed. Do you remember how everyone complained that Cassie Cage beat Shinnok? But at least that was foreshadowed. We saw Johnny Cage do it. Liu Kang does the exact same thing to Shao Kahn, but it's not even foreshadowed. He just has it. Out of nowhere, he just has it. It's ridiculous. I think they may have been trying to imply that because Raiden died, Earthrealm needed a god, and so the god power went to Liu Kang? But that wouldn't make sense because Raiden gave his powers up a long time ago, like before the fights even started. So that would mean Liu Kang would get the power immediately before the fight started because that's when Raiden gave it up. But no, he just gets it randomly. And I think it is meant to be just Liu Kang's essence. Like he's just that strong all along and never knew it. Also, I don't think Baraka is in this movie, or if he is, he's worse than the Baraka in the first movie. Remember how Johnny Cage beat Baraka and everybody was mad because it was too easy? It's easier in this movie. I think I'm done. I don't know. There's nothing else to really say about this movie. I apologize if it's one big rant. I tried for it not to be. I think maybe it's my fault for being super excited for this movie. I think what irritates me the most though, and what has me the most disappointed, is all they had to really do was make it a tournament movie. That's all they had to do. But someone, either the writer or someone above them said, nope, gotta go all out. You gotta put a big monster battle in there. You gotta put this like politics in there. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do I think you should watch this movie? Yes, but try and find a friend that already has it so you can watch it for free. I kind of regret buying it, but I don't regret buying digital only. I was gonna buy everything to really support this movie. Again, I was super excited. The plot seemed great. They were taking advice and just making it about the tournament, because that's what everyone wants to see is a tournament movie. They were doing that finally. The outfits looked great. They picked the best outfits from like every single game. I was super excited. They brought back certain characters like Li Mei, and I was disappointed in every regard. That's all I can say. That's my review. If you wanted to hear it, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please let me know. I really do read the comments, and I want to know your thoughts. You don't have to leave a like or subscribe, any of that. I just wanted to review this. Those are my thoughts. Have a good one.